Well, hello everybody. This is Kimberly of Losing It with Kimberly. I got on the treadmill and I just started it up and I accidentally held the button down too long and zoomed past 2.5 miles per hour and got up to 3.5, and I was like, oh no, and started taking it down. And then I was like, well, wait a second. Maybe I should start doing faster than 2.5. I really hadn't thought about it up until this point, which is funny to me because I used to be all about the see how fast I can go. When I was in super duper good shape, I could start off at 6.0 miles per hour just, from the get-go. That was a warm-up. And then I think at that point, I can't remember what I would get regularly at. I think 8 on the treadmill, not outside, but 8. And I think I would then, once in a while I would increase it to have a sprint at 9.5. That's funny. There's no way. I almost said a bad word there. There's no way I'm ever going to do that again. I don't aspire to, and I'm not even sure, as I've mentioned, that I'll get back to running at all. Well, I guess the the main thing we have to check here is whether I'm going to be able to do 3.0 and still talk to you without sounding like I'm about to collapse from lung problems. I've noticed when I listen back to the recordings that it's very easy to tell that I'm not struggling for breath, but I'm definitely walking while I'm talking to you. It's very clear when I'm listening to my breathing. And I will say at some point I do need to go to a pulmonologist to have my breathing assessed, because what has become apparent to me during this time is that I probably do still have asthma and or damage from when I had asthma when I was younger. And I just never realized it because I always was in good cardiovascular shape. And so, as I mentioned, even during my pregnancies, I exercised the whole time. If anything, the only time I missed exercise was after my pregnancy when I had postpartum depression, and my husband traveled every week, 5 days a week, and I was suicidal. I didn't try suicide, I just had suicidal ideation, but several times a day, every day, for months. So, and didn't have an advocate. We'll leave it at that. Now my lack of advocate is my ex. So, the whole point of that, how did I get off on that? The whole point of that is that's the only time I haven't exercised on a regular basis. And I think I was just keeping the asthma at bay and just assumed I had outgrown it. I just always said I had childhood asthma and I've outgrown it, but I'm not so sure that that's true. I actually chatted with a guy. It was in 2016, because it was during another time that I tried to get in shape when I was going to my mom's house in another city every other week to help care for her. And when she wasn't 100% dependent on care, so I was trying to keep her in her house, which was a failed attempt, but I did it for 4 years. Anyway, at one point, tried to get in shape during that time. Joined a gym here, joined a gym there, and at one of my visits at the gym there is chatting with a guy who was talking about doing races, and he was a dad bod, right? He wasn't in great shape or anything, but he was doing some races and trying to incorporate them, as a family event with his wife and his somewhat small child. And he had asthma, and he was talking about how he had 2 different kinds of inhalers. One that he would take before exercise, just on a regular basis, and then one that he would take for days that he would have a race or some other activity. And I think it was a trail race. It wasn't, and he wasn't doing it for time to be competitive. He was doing it just as an event to stay healthy. And he talked about how once he started using the inhaler, he was actually able to get better time. And, because you do get timed whether you care about that being competitive or not. They do tell you what your time was. And he said his time actually improved, which indicated to him that his breathing was improved, and he experienced his improved breathing. So I do balance the cost benefit of taking any medication that's prescribed, because at some point I'm going to have to take medication for something that's probably life-threatening, probably cholesterol, once I'm able to get back to the doctor. And as I mentioned, heart issues on my dad's side of the family at relatively young ages, like 60, people just dropping dead. So I definitely am going to have to be on medication for something. So I don't want to add on, too many things that are going to conflict. And since I don't care about time, my asthma is not keeping me from living a life right now or exercising. So I don't think I would necessarily jump to having medication for that. But I would like to know, and I definitely experience, allergy things that might be impacting my breathing. So, over the next few months, I sort of need to take my health back into my own hands in regard to the medical community, which has been, put to the side during the last number of years because I was caring for my mom. And I know a lot of people end up helping somebody in their family as they age or as they have health concerns or whatever, but Alzheimer's is a bit more dramatic in that the person becomes 100% dependent. They can't do anything for themselves. I mean, the last time I tried to take my mom somewhere, which was a couple of years ago, to get a flu shot, this is already, she couldn't understand how to get in the car. She can't understand how to move her body. At that point, she was walking, but she couldn't understand how to move her body. She looks at food in front of her and doesn't know if it's food that she should eat or not. Is this food? Is this edible? What is this? It's not just about, she never has forgotten my name. So it's not what most people would think. It's like essentially somebody breaking into your brain, every once in a while and cutting a bunch of wires. So it manifests differently in different people, so they've cut wires and all of a sudden you can't do this thing. Or some people forget how to walk and ultimately, this is getting sad, but ultimately they forget how to swallow, so it's unlike helping out a parent or helping out somebody. It's consuming. And unfortunately for me, it was a mistake to keep her in her home as long as I did. But like many life mistakes, even those that become devastating, you only realize it in the aftermath. And I'm not really even in the aftermath yet. I'm just in the phase where I've now moved her to assisted living in my town, 4 minutes away from me. And, I'm at least have people caring for her during most days. But when there's a health concern that requires leaving the community, it's back on you. So, it's still something that is a large and heavy part of my life, which is why my health has taken a hit. I would not be where I am now had it not been the path I took with her. Certainly, that is not the only thing that's happened in the last decade with me, but it is the main thing that has kept me from doing the things that one should do for oneself. And maybe you have something like that in your life too. We all, most of us at some point get hit by something relatively devastating, whether it's our own illness, maybe a diagnosis that we get, or maybe it's a diagnosis that our partner gets, or a child, or maybe you have a parent who's gotten, a diagnosis and a illness or a disease that has required a large chunk, of your life. And so, yes, theoretically, of course you should go to the doctor or whatever professional you feel aligned with and get assessments and be on top of your health and doing the right things to address that with either nutrition, exercise, medication, whatever path is right for you. But life isn't perfect, and life isn't ideal, and sometimes the beep hits the fan, and sometimes that's for a decade, as it is with me, more than a decade at this point. So, you have to sort of, at some point along the way, when you're able to, get back up and start again, and start from zero. I mean, that's essentially where I'm starting from. I've never been as out of shape as I've been in the last few years. And I wanted to say I've never been as out of shape as I am now, but the now has been the same case for the last several years. I've gone up and down a little as I've attempted to make efforts to lose weight and to get in shape again. But that's been few and far between for chunks of time, or, a handful of months. And as I mentioned in another recording, just gained it all back. I've never been a yo-yo dieter because I never was a dieter, but, I just gained it back at double time. So it tells me maybe it's hypothyroidism, which we'll check with the doctor. Maybe it was simply pure stress. I can't imagine surviving a higher level of stress than I've already experienced. I mean, I think I would be crushed if there was any more than I have already experienced. So the body can do wackadoodle things when you have that much stress. And I want to use the word trauma because it's been very traumatic. And the body can do wackadoodle things. Maybe I don't have hypothyroidism, even though when I look at a website and look at all the symptoms, I have all of them but two, But maybe I don't. My daughter does. Her dad took her to an integrative doctor because she's on his wife's medical plan, which was better than either of ours because she works for the government. So he took her to an integrative doctor. And she had all sorts of testing done, and she has hypothyroidism. So, it could likely be that I do. And she's not currently overweight. She's actually very much like me. She's a teenager. She medicates with junk food, enough calories that if she wasn't a teenager, she would be gaining weight right now. And she might have gained 5 pounds or something, but she's not like gaining weight like you would as an adult for eating the amount of junk she eats. Like me, she eats healthy meals because that's what I've raised her to do. Eat mostly healthy meals and then medicate with food. I didn't teach her that medicating with food part, but I think most of us during stressful times turn to something. And if you're not going to turn to alcohol or smoking or drugs or any of the other medications, you're going to turn to food. I mean, my theory is we probably turn to whatever is most readily available to us. And since, no one in our family smokes, and I don't think my ex, he really rarely drank when we were together, and I don't think he drinks at all. And I had started feeling so terrible in the last decade, I've just cut out all alcohol because red wine, had always once in a while given me migraines, and I already had migraines from hormones once a month. So I really haven't wanted to, and still don't. I mean, even when I look at an advertisement and it's got a bottle of wine pictured, I feel stressed. I mean, it makes me feel like I'm going to get a migraine just looking at the stupid picture, and that tells you how your brain can get wired up on things. So, it's not something I plan to add back in. So it's not around my house, not around his house. So my children, of course, they are underage anyway, but neither one of them even have an interest in trying alcohol. So if you're going to medicate with something, you choose something that's available. Junk food's available. That's what my daughter medicates with. And that's what I did. And, at some point, it caught up with me. Well, pretty much from puberty, my body started reacting to, eating too much junk. But then I regulated it enough not to become overweight. I guess with activity, like I said before, on a different day, back in the 70s and 80s, we're outside a lot more. I mean, we didn't have cars, so we walked places. I mean, I remember walking to my local high school to hit around a tennis ball with a friend, or we'd play backyard volleyball. When I was younger than that, we'd ride our bikes or roller skate through the neighborhood. There was just activity. And because of computers, which I love computers, but a lot of kids these days are much more sedentary. I mean, I'm happy to report that my son is sticking with his 1 hour a day of standing desk. So I'm very proud of him for that. And he's great about getting on some sort of change in his life and sticking with it. Like I said, he has Asperger's, which is a form of autism, and they are sort of a very on-off thinker. So I feel like he's sort of like a train that once you set it on the track, or once, in this case, he's 18, so he sets himself on the track. Once he sets himself on a track, he just keeps chewing down the track. I mean, it's actually interesting because I'd say he's less likely than the average person to not stick with a change once he decides to make it, and once he creates a system, which, as I mentioned, we work on together, but he's done it now. I mean, he's pretty much in charge of himself now. Once he went away to college, he developed that. So even now back from college, I'm not on top of him for anything. He just keeps it all going. So, there's definitely a plus in his column for being able to stick with changes. Anyway, like every day, I seem to have gotten way off on a tangent. So let me see if I can get back on. So yesterday, as you know, I can't remember what day it was of ARMS. I want to say day 2, day 3, something like that. I forgot to do my weights. So I had the Post-it that I put on my treadmill, and it said weights and had an exclamation point and 3 underlines. And when I first stepped up on the treadmill, I saw it, and it reminded me, yeah, right, weights, good. But by the time that I got off the treadmill, I had forgotten. So clearly the Post-it was not enough. And so I feel like, okay, well, we're back to me needing a checklist that I carry around the house with me to see what I've done and what I haven't done. And it probably was about an hour and a half later when I realized that I hadn't done it. So I thought, well, I'll come back down to do it, shortly. And then I forgot again. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to go down and do those weights. Then I forgot again. And so I keep trying to come up with a system in my mind that's going to keep me from forgetting, because the Post-it obviously didn't do it. So I'm going to, I'd say if I was doing a full set of weights, I would sort of view it as part of my workout. Like I would view it like, oh, my workout, I do the treadmill and then I do my weight routine. And for me, until I get it fixed in my head, I typically have a printout that shows me what my weight routine is. So I'm just looking at it like a checklist, like, okay, this, and then that, and then that, and then that. But since it's just this one little thing that I'm adding on in a little piece, at the very end of my treadmill time, I don't think of it as a chunk with this. I just think of it as a sort of a glue-on and add-on, and I'm forgetting it. So then I thought, okay, well, if the Post-it's not going to work, maybe I can put the weights at the bottom of the stairs. So when I go upstairs, I can't help but see them, because I would trip over them if I put them at the bottom of the stairs before I go up. But then I thought, okay, my teenagers are typically sleeping when I'm working out, but should one come downstairs, they could potentially trip on it. So I can't do that. So I thought, okay, well, I'll put them off to the side, of the stairs. So they're still quite visible, but they're not in a tripping area. But I don't know. I feel like if they're off to the side, it's so easy not to notice them. For me, if I'm trying to remember something, I need to put it so it is foolproof. So if I'm trying to leave the house and not forget to take something with me, then I, usually would put it in front of the front door. If it's big, if it's small, I'll put it in my purse because I'm always going to be taking my purse. If it's in between size and baggable, I might put it in a bag and hang it on the doorknob. So it's literally impossible to leave without noticing this thing. But I think for the weights, since putting them in front of the stairs is a tripping hazard and to the side, I think I'll just ignore them. I won't notice them. So I think what I'm going to do, since it's just one set, is I'm going to do them at the beginning before I actually even get on the treadmill. That way, it's already done. I mean, I noticed the post-it yesterday when I stepped up on the treadmill before I began walking. I noticed the post-it. So why don't I just step right back off, do the one set of weights, get right back on the treadmill and start walking. So that was the plan that I came up with yesterday, and that is what I did today, and it worked great. So, as you know, I've had successes with things, with changes I'm making. I've had successes that have worked so great, and I'm enthusiastic, and I'm telling you, look what I did. And then the next day, bloop, I totally forget to do it. So that might be the case with this. We'll see. It's a learning process, right? For you, for me, it's a learning process. Always getting better though, right? Always moving forward as a whole, as the big picture. We're always moving forward. I like the analogy they talk about an airplane flying across the country. It doesn't just go in a straight line, it's going in one direction, then it's making a small course correction, along, I'm sure, with weather systems. I don't know why they do that. I would assume with weather systems. It makes a small course correction, then makes a small course correction. So if you looked at it, it would look, and zoomed in enough, it would look zigzaggy to some extent. But if you zoom out, the overall direction is a straight shot from one coast of the country to the other. So that's what we're doing here with making our lifestyle changes. Overall, we're going to get to where we're going, and it's going to, be a little zigzaggy on a day-to-day basis. But when we're at the year mark and we zoom out and look at the big picture of it, it's going to look like we went from point A to point B in a relatively smooth path. And that's what we're going for, right? I'm fine with the zigzags. That's okay. And yesterday, the day before yesterday, I missed my water, I told you. Totally forgot about it until about 7:30 at night. And then I was like, well, it's too late to down a bunch of water now. And, I told you I would start again yesterday. And I did. Got my 24 ounces in pretty easily. I went to the grocery store, and I sort of have a habit that I've set up that number one, I drink things all day long. I don't know if that's normal. I don't know if it's a habit or, if I'm just, it can't be that I'm just thirsty. I guess it's just a habit. But I drink things all day long. So I've sort of established a long time ago a habit that the only thing I'll drink in the car is water. And so going to the grocery store, I got 12 of my ounces in just on the drive there and the drive back, just drinking water, and I gulped essentially 12 more ounces, I think about 6 ounces at a time in a 10-minute span mid-afternoon, just to hit my 24 ounces and check that off my list. So I achieved what I was going for, and I ate some cherries, ate some strawberries, so I got some more hydration there. I'm trying to think. I feel like I ate something else yesterday that was hydrating, but whatever the case, I'm getting it done. I bought a lot more fruit at the store. Got a bunch of nectarines, a whole crate of nectarines and blueberries, and new thing of like a 4-pound thing of strawberries. So like I've said before, I'm not changing my eating yet. This is actually how I always eat. I just eat junk food in addition to eating healthy, which is what tips me over the edge. It either makes me gain weight or makes me hold on to the weight that I have. This is how I've always eaten, so except for when I weighed 132. But when I weighed 146, which was sort of my lifetime in shape weight, exercising regularly, like 3 to 5 times a week, eating healthy foods plus junk stuff, I was about 146. And, that was my lifetime weight from 18 to 38 before I got in really good shape. So, it just means really good, like I went up a level of intensity. So, and went down a level of food, I'd say food intake. We'll talk about that in more detail one day. I'll just mention right now, that was truly motivated by my marriage was struggling, and it had been struggling for pretty much the whole time since we were married. But it was struggling, and we had been working on it for years, and I wanted to gain. It was after I had gotten out of postpartum depression with my second child, and that was the last child I planned to have. And so I think it was a matter of taking my power back. And when I say marriage struggling, it was the first time we had been working on our marriage the entire time we'd been together, essentially. But it was the first time I'd ever considered that it might not work. Like, this marriage might have to end. And so I was grasping for something to have control of in my life. And it turned out that, taking more control of my health was it. It was something that made me like working out harder at the gym and watching, I've never made drastic changes in my diet such that they're unhealthy. I haven't gone on bad diets. I haven't done anything destructive to my body to try to lose weight. But I really cut back on calories, and I was totally, I will say, getting off on, seeing the number on the scale go down, and comments that I was getting from external people, because it was, before I was always in shape. 146, I was in shape, but it wasn't the kind of shape that you'd look at and go, wow, she's really in good shape. I was just internally, I was very strong and had good, cardiovascular health. But once I was down to 132 and had gotten really lean and strong, it was very obvious that I was in shape. Like, I had people, a guy say at a personal training hands-on activity, he was also getting a certification, and he wasn't even trying to pick me up, I don't think. I really didn't get that sense. But he was like, I would hire you just by looking at you, So I had gone, but again, it was all fueled by me trying to get control of something in my life that was crumbling, So there's always a motivation for the things that we do and the things that we achieve, but it's a matter of hopefully finding a positive motivation for getting a new level of health in your life, or a new level of fitness, whatever. It's not that the negative motivation doesn't work, and there are plenty of people that are in great shape, are rich, are super successful, whatever, out there that have achieved things on the back of a truly negative motivation within them. But I want to be happy. I don't care about getting external praise from anyone for anything that I'm doing. I truly just want to be happy in my soul, in my everyday life, and that is what's motivating me, and now what's motivating me is I want to extend my life. I feel like I've lost 10 years in the past period of time of not being able to put, attention towards my own life. But in addition, I've developed health problems that I didn't have before. So I feel like I've cut years off of the end of my life too. So I sort of am looking at life going, oh my gosh, I have such limited time. I've lost so many years, both on the current end and the back end of my life. Just looking at my dad's family health history is scary. So I just want to make the most of what I've got now, look at where I'm at now and start from there. And that's what I'm doing. And that's what some of you might be doing. I don't know everybody's individual circumstances, but I do know feedback that I get from people that are part of the program. And, everybody has a story. Everybody has something they've either faced or they're still facing right now. And, maybe now is their comeback also. And I think that that's great. If that's your time now, or maybe this is the first time you're getting into shape. Maybe this is the first time you're, focusing on your health. Maybe you've gone to the doctor and you've gotten some sort of feedback that says, hey, if you don't change XYZ, ABC is going to happen, and that's your motivation. Whatever it is, I hope that all of us are finding that we have a motivation for making changes at whatever pace makes sense for us. Right here today, I've done this 3 miles per hour of walking, whereas I was doing 2.5. Didn't even come to mind to change it until today, and I changed it, and it worked out just fine. So yay for me. I don't think I can, we'll see. I'm not sure I can accomplish anything at my standing desk. With the 3.0, I'm not sure I can type. And I need to at least be able to type in web addresses or click on something without clicking on the wrong thing. I don't know. We'll find out. But at the very least, I can talk to you. And this has been another good day. Good walk for me. I hope that you're having a good day and that the changes that you're putting into place are sticking. But then the ones that aren't sticking, you can drop some without guilt. If you've changed your mind about now being the right time for that change, maybe you no longer want that change. Maybe, there's two categories. You can either no longer want it because you tried it and you're like, maybe this isn't the most important thing to me. Or maybe you tried it and it's not sticking, and it's about timing. We all have different time constraints, different responsibilities, different mental energy that can go towards change, which does require some mental energy. So maybe now's not the right time. You'll revisit this one. Maybe you still want it. Maybe you just fell off the track and you need to get back on tomorrow. It's fine too. No problem. I believe that you can do it. I believe everybody here can do that. I believe we can all get better from day to day and not spend any energy wasted on shame or guilt or, self-flagellation. Just get back on the track tomorrow, start again. So I hope you're having a great day, and I'm going to talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.